It's been a while since we have busted out the NHL gameplay, and I feel like a topic like this doesn't necessarily need all the graphics and the numbers on the screen at all times, so let's just get into a stream of consciousness rambling conversation like we have accustomed ourselves to over the past few years on this channel. Today we're talking about the Vancouver Canucks and forward Jake DeBrusk, because it turns out there's a very particular reason why this guy has not gotten traded yet. At least, according to what Frank Seravalli said last week on the now defunct Canucks Central show. Man, I hate saying that. Did you know Sportsnet 650 is gone? That's crazy, man. Somebody's got to go out there and go all Jason Gregor on the Vancouver market, open up a privately owned, independent radio station to talk sports, because that is what this city needs. Are you kidding me? We go from TSN 1040 and the Sportsnet 650 sports radio wars in Vancouver to having no sports talk radio station in 5 years? How is this even possible? You can't tell me COVID killed radio so quickly that now all it takes is 5 years to go from 2 sports talk stations to none in the third biggest city in Canada. Anyways, let's go out there and talk about what Frank Seravalli said on Canucks Central regarding Jake DeBrusk and the Vancouver Canucks. Seravalli says, "I've been saying for the last little while, why isn't anybody trading for Jake DeBrusk?" I asked that question to a couple of teams, and the feedback was, because he's streaky. And the term. And so, that is a pretty fair complaint when it comes to Jake DeBrusk as an NHL caliber scorer. There are a number of arguments that you can say to justify bringing in a guy like Jake DeBrusk for an NHL team who needs some extra goal scoring. Jake DeBrusk is making $5.5 million a year till the end of 2031. And that contract is decently long, not too expensive though. Just scrolling around the market and thinking about guys around the league, the Vancouver example is upfront and personal. Brock Besser is making 7-point-something mil. Brendan Gallagher was making 6-point-something mil before getting his salary cut in half and getting shipped over to Vancouver. Connor Garland is making $6 million a year, and he is entering a long-ish term deal with Columbus for that contract because it was signed last year in the summer by Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford. Jake DeBrusk, it's not like his contract is bad, especially when you compare it to some of the other figures that have been handed out to other names. Pavel Dorofeyev is the big one that comes to my mind. Kirill Kaprizov, Kyle Connor, we knew those guys were going to get paid, but Pavel Dorofeyev getting $11 million with the New York Rangers in a sign-and-trade? That's a pretty big deal. And Jake DeBrusk, you can get one Pavel Dorofeyev for the price of 2 Jake DeBrusks. It's literally 50%. You could debate that Jake DeBrusk and his contract is a value piece, but that's only if you fully believe in the power play scoring that DeBrusk possesses. While it's true he was able to go out there and score 20-plus goals for the previous few years in Vancouver Canucks colors, and it's true that the majority of those goals seem to be special teams power play goals, the fact is, this is a guy who would disappear for weeks on end before scoring 5 goals in the span of 3 games, getting that goal total up, and then going cold again. If you value consistency throughout the regular season, Jake DeBrusk hasn't really done that. Although, devil's advocate, I will say that Jake DeBrusk has been a pretty reasonably consistent Stanley Cup Playoffs scorer. You take a look at the numbers he has had in the postseason for Boston, and you're seeing half a point a game to sub-point per game point paces throughout the course of most of these runs. Sure, there's a run or two where DeBrusk doesn't really get much going on, but even in some of these first-round eliminations for the Bruins in 22-23, he's still going out there and scoring at a decent clip. Jake DeBrusk doesn't just provide power play goal scoring in the regular season, he also provides genuine offensive productivity in the playoffs. So for Frank Seravalli to reveal the truth here that some teams are thinking about it like, hey, he's just too streaky for us, man. The term on that contract is too long, man. I honestly don't really get why the term is an issue here. Jake DeBrusk goes on till 2031. He's 29 years old right now. I'm thinking about it like, how was Conor Garland able to go earlier? Even though he is an older player, he plays a more unsustainable style long-term, and he's making more money than Jake DeBrusk. Let alone the fact that Conor Garland went over to the Columbus Blue Jackets for 2 draft picks, a second and a third. Kiefer Sherwood went for 2 seconds, so I can see why he got a little bit more, but if that's the going rate for these wingers, I'm kind of surprised that Jake DeBrusk is still a coveted piece that has not found a new NHL home just yet. Especially with all the talk from Canucks insiders and reporters that, hey, Jake DeBrusk would actually be okay to leave. He would be fine if he were to be asked to go somewhere else, and he would be more willing to play for a Stanley Cup potential team rather than the Vancouver Canucks this upcoming season. It makes a lot of sense in my mind. This guy did not sign with Vancouver because he wanted to play for a loser. It's a free agent contract from last year. Obviously, he was coming into the Canucks system, seeing their playoff run in 2024, and that was a very positive experience for anybody watching, but either way, what this means to me is that if Jake DeBrusk is going to stick around in Vancouver, if he stays on the team to start out 2026-2027, he's going to have to come out guns a-blazing. He's going to have to look awesome in the opening parts of the year, getting multiple power play goals, being that top-tier finisher, maybe get some points for Elias Pettersson and Marco Rossi and all of them to bolster up the value of EP40 alongside of Jakey D, and then these guys will probably have an easier time to get traded. All it takes is one hot streak. And I can understand the reticence from Canucks fans, like, oh, if Jake DeBrusk is actually doing well, if Elias Pettersson is actually doing all right, then don't trade them. They're doing good things. But then it's like, oh, well, you got to think about the bigger picture. Jake DeBrusk is 29 years old. And also, do you want these Vancouver Canucks guys to be so good that they start actually winning games? Get Thatcher Demko off of this team as long as he's healthy. Get Jake DeBrusk off of the team as long as he's scoring power play goals. Open up space for the young guys to step in and get some reps at the NHL level. Sure, they may not win every single night, but at the very least, if they're finding ways to compete and just get those positive habits in, get those reps in, I'd say that's a lot more important than sheltering any of these other younger players. Like, oh, we're only going to play Liam Ogren 7 minutes a night because Jake DeBrusk is going to get all these minutes on the power play and he's going to score all these points and we're going to win games and we're going to ruin our tank. Like, there's a system here. And Henrik Sedin said it best. The best way to build this team up as fast as possible is to go slow. And sometimes going slow involves a year where you strictly dedicate yourself to trading away valuable pieces that can help out Stanley Cup teams now. Kiefer Sherwood, Conor Garland, Tyler Myers, they all suffered through that fate last season. Seems like Jake DeBrusk, he's going to have to prove himself first before NHL teams are willing to take a chance on that. Hopefully he does it alongside of Elias Pettersson. Either that, or if Pettersson just becomes the 80-point guy that we thought he was once upon a time again, then maybe the Canucks actually get a really big haul. Like 4 first-round picks, for example. Who knows? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this Jake DeBrusk trade truth? How Frank Seravalli's talking about how teams are scared to take on Jakey D. It's the streakiness of his goal scoring. It is the length of the contract. Conor Garland went for some draft picks. Why can't Jake DeBrusk? That's my thought process internally when reading that tweet. Let me know in the comments your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.